Yeah.
Look at the camera.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of High Resolution Life, and I have the man, the myth, the legend, Doug, with us today. So, I know Doug from PA Grappling, and he has put up with my shenanigans and my lack of jiu-jitsu prowess, helping me prepare for my blue belt, lots of jiu-jitsu life advice. So, we'll talk about jiu-jitsu, but kind of things that sort of branch out from there as well. So,
Sure.
thank you for taking the time
Sounds
to
good.
come on the podcast, Doug.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, tell us all about you.
I don't know where to start. I guess since we're talking about jiu-jitsu and martial arts, so I started getting into martial arts, I guess, when I was about 7 years old. I lived in the Philippines. We had a driver. My dad worked for a bank. At least that's what he said anyways. That's a different story, though. And I don't know, he was in good shape. I remember him having these like tennis ball biceps.
And that was the driver?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I don't know, I guess he seemed to be in his 20s at the time. I'm 7 years old about. And he would take me to see Bruce Lee movies. And of course, I mean, who doesn't like Bruce Lee? And so I wanted to do all that stuff, and I found out that the school that I was going to had a karate class, and it had a judo class. The karate class was full, though, and so I ended up taking the judo class, and that's how I got into martial arts.
Oh, the judo class.
7 years old, first grade.
Nice.
1977.
What's it like learning judo as a child?
So there were a couple of things, I don't know, I guess I was a little bit disappointed. I see the karate class and they're punching and kicking and they're making lots of noise, and all that. And they seemed very formidable, like, look at those guys. And the judo class, it started off us learning how to fall and roll. And I picked that up right away. Like, I don't even know, like, it was demonstrated. Yeah. And then I did a back fall, and then it was demonstrated, and I did a front roll fall. Yeah. And I didn't have any problem with it. And then some of the other kids would just kind of flop over, and halfway through they'd unravel or something like that. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, what's the matter? Like, why can't they do what the teacher just showed us?
People don't realize there's an art to falling. I got some guff in jiu-jitsu because, my balance is much better than it used to be, but I sort of had to figure out how to hit the mats and how to flop over because I didn't quite know what I was doing in that regard.
It's the first thing you learn in judo. So there are two different types of falling that we did. One where you would strike the mat. Yeah, you tried to show me that. I still don't think I have that down yet. I don't know. I feel like some people do it a little bit wrong. They got the idea a little bit wrong. But anyways, there's one version where you, say you do a roll and then you slap the mat after the end. Okay. And then there's another version where you just roll and continue moving. And get back up or, get back to your knees or whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah. Without doing any of the slapping. People tend to do the roll, and as they finish the roll, they unwind their arm and slap the ground. But the purpose of that was to learn how to fall and how to break the momentum when you fell, so that when you were thrown, right, your hand was supposed to strike the ground first to sort of, relieve the force on you a little bit, right, and spread out.
Like a shock absorber.
Yeah, so it takes some of the brunt of the force, not all of it, or maybe not even a lot, but some of it, right? So that when you land on the rest of your body, it's just not as harsh. And people tend to, we do the rolls very softly. And so there's no difference in rolling onto your back and then slapping the ground.
Now, was it on because we have the mats there, but was it on just like regular wood floor, or was it also the padded mats?
No, it was padded mats.
Okay.
Like you would see in a wrestling room.
Okay.
Softer than the ones that we have. Our mats are pretty hard.
Okay, is there a reason, does it need to be softer in judo?
Yeah, because you're getting thrown to the ground over and over and over and over and over during practice. Just imagine just hitting the ground 50 times. Yeah, and so it's definitely much softer.
Okay. and like what we're used to with jiu-jitsu, we do have some standing, a little bit of standing fighting, but everything we're doing isn't throws in comparison.
Right. We do some wrestling takedowns where you just kind of,
Yeah, takedowns. We do takedowns. When do we ever do?
Not much. We, sometimes it's a couple of us after class, and
not as much as we should.
And we'll just drill, standing up.
Sorry, I'm just making sure you get in there enough too.
Squeeze in.
Act like we haven't already been at each other's throats before.
Right, we've been sweating all over each other.
Oh my God! Was it you? No, it wasn't you. It was somebody's sweat got in my eye and in my mouth, and I was like, ah!
I've had sweat just like I'm on my back, and you can see it drip just goes right into your eye. Just.
Oh, I've had that in my eye, but the mouth was the worst part. And I got my first toe in my mouth in jiu-jitsu, Thanksgiving, nice. The Thanksgiving roll. Did you hear me freak out? Go, it's a toe in my mouth!
I don't remember that. We were there.
We did some turkey rolls Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's when we were at...
Railroad City
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, that's another... jiu-jitsu gym that we have in town.
Buddy's gym, yeah.
Yeah, the rival gym. I don't know. It's fun to have. It's fun to have, like, the drama. So when you were in the Philippines, was that mostly kids, like, from the Philippines, or were there also international kids?
So I went to an international school. In fact, it was called International School.
Aptly named.
So there were a lot of international students, but, international in Southeast Asia, they're still mostly Asians.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there's some Indian or Pakistani or some Indonesian kids there, or some Chinese, or I guess maybe Taiwanese.
Were they there for business, or was there military involvement?
So there was a lot of military involvement. Most of the, I don't know about most, but a lot of the kids that I was friends with, they had parents that had something to do with the military.
Oh, okay.
In fact, that's what a lot of people thought that my dad was, because we would move around a lot.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, oh, your dad must be in the military.
You know what? I subconsciously made that assumption too. I didn't realize that.
No. He was in the Air Force, years before I was born.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's where I had absorbed that from. See, guys, I'm learning about him in this podcast too. I learned things about my friends I didn't realize. Surprise!
I'm full of stories and mysteries.
Oh my gosh! Like whenever we were, I was hungover. I don't think you were. But you weren't feeling it that day, and it ended up being like a little life coaching session instead of drilling, because neither of us were absorbing anything, and we were like, "Well, let's just pretend to do philosophy today instead." So judo, all right. So how many years do you still work with judo now, or is there a lot of principles that you just apply to jiu-jitsu or other martial arts?
I only lived in the Philippines. I only did that for 2 years, or maybe it was even just 2.5 years, 2 semesters. Maybe it was just 7th grade. I kind of don't really remember how long I was there. But it was a class that was offered in school, right? And so when I signed up for it, you just took it. And again, I don't know if it was half a year or if it was a full year, and then I did it a second time. So that was only, an equivalent of a year or two. And we just did a lot of basic things. Most of it was falling and rolling. And a little bit of, like self-defense for kids. But
nobody took your lunch money.
Boy, it was rough being a mixed kid growing up in Southeast Asia.
You had mentioned about that before. I'm wondering, was that part of your motivation for wanting to do judo and karate?
A little bit, yeah, because, there was always, other kids that, kind of didn't appreciate.
Now, was that coming from kids with an Asian background, or from white kids, or?
I guess it was mostly Asian. Sometimes, even like Hawaiian kids, they didn't like, mixed race people. Haole, they call you a Haole. Lots of Chinese. I was in Hong Kong for a little bit, and you get a little bit from there. But I don't know. I guess for the most part, it was just kind of. I didn't really have much trouble. People just kind of treated me like a stray dog.
Oh no!
like, oh, hey, throw me a scrap or two, and then,
Oh wow.
but you can't come in.
But that was kind of like typical sort of kid mentality though, or whatever they absorb.
Really, like some of the older people probably felt sorry for me. They're like, oh, some Asian lady got knocked up by some, American GI or something.
Oh.
And, here's now this kid just wandering the streets of,
Oh no.
Southeast Asia.
Oh no.
I just feel like it was kind of something like that.
Oh no, poor stray dog. Oh no. So even in the Philippines you had to deal with that.
So in the Philippines, I lived in a place called Dasmariñas Village. And it was a gated community, but huge. I mean, I don't even know how big, but hundreds of houses anyways. And I would ride my bicycle around the neighborhood, and I'd end up at the entrances, the gates to the village. And I would hang out with the security guards there.
You just chilling?
Yeah, and eventually one gave me like a badge.
What?
Yeah, I had
at
a
what
security
age?
guard at 7.
Just chilling with the security guards at 7.
So I was there from 6 to 8. So I just say 7. I don't remember, but
okay, something like that.
yeah, 6, 7, and 8 years old I was there. So.
How did they just kind of like, and the security guards, were they Filipino? Were they white?
No. I mean, they were Filipino. If they weren't Filipino, then I think probably they were Indian or Pakistani.
Okay, and so like, obviously, did they speak English? You guys were.
Yeah. I learned a little bit of Tagalog, but it was all just swear words and stuff that they would teach me.
So did they play like games with you, or just show you how they were doing stuff with being security guards?
Yeah, they would just, I would just kind of hang out there. Car would come by, I would check them, and then I'd sit with them. And I mean, they would do stuff to keep themselves busy, and they usually had like a deck of cards or something like that. They would just play games, but I would just go and hang out for a little bit, and then go for a bike ride, and then go back home. And so, I was out of the house, a lot.
So it wasn't really like your peer group that you connected with as much?
Yeah, no. Because I guess being at an international school, like not everybody lived in my neighborhood. If you wanted to go see somebody, you usually had to have to get somebody to drive me somewhere.
Well, that would be annoying as a kid.
Yeah, so I didn't really go outside of Dasmariñas Village on my bike.
Okay.
On my bicycle. So I didn't ride a motorbike yet.
Yet.
Although I feel like I rode one. Back around that time. Maybe that was actually a little bit after that. Because I think I know the friend who owned the bike.
Okay.
Which was somewhere else, actually. Indonesia.
So did that judo, did that help you with a stray dog being able to get through his scraps?
I practiced the judo. I was good at, say acrobatic movements, like
you are good at that.
Diving, and just kind of in my room, there was a closet, had sliding doors, and then above it had another, like cupboards with also had sliding doors. And I would close the closet doors, the main closet doors, and open up the other ones, and then I would run up the doors and climb up inside.
Were you Spider-Man?
I pretended to be Spider-Man.
So it was your favorite? Was your favorite?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to be Spider-Man. I wanted to be able to climb like Spider-Man. And on the outside of the house, the stones on the corner of the house, kind of stuck out like that. And I could grab onto the stones, and I would climb all the way up to the roof of the house.
Amazing.
I was always moving around and, pretty agile and, I coordinated, I guess, because I'm looking at my other friends who can't roll. And
me.
I know that was the thing.
Me.
So I did practice, like what I thought I saw Bruce Lee doing, just doing straight punches and stuff like that. And he had some nunchucks, and I got a pair, and I would swing them around and pretend like I was Bruce Lee. Jump through the air, flying side kicks and stuff like that. So, I thought I was doing something. Over the years, though, depending on where I lived, sometimes I didn't do anything, and sometimes I did other things. Like I did gymnastics when I lived in England for a year and a half. And it was always something acrobatic or athletic, something like that. Like, ended up playing soccer, no American football. Nobody played that.
Yeah, no. That's still a lot of animosity with that.
Soccer. Although rugby, in England,
pretty close.
We play rugby.
Yeah,
and that was fun.
Which is actually, we complain about football being dangerous here, American football,
right?
But rugby.
But when you don't have all that gear on, you're not gonna run into somebody head on. And, you're gonna be a little bit more careful about how you tackle them. I just saw something the other day, actually yesterday. They're gonna ban, I think, a certain type of tackle
from American football or rugby.
American football.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because there's CTE and all that different stuff. That was really concerning.
In professional, in any sport, I think, right, there's just so much pressure to perform well.
Yeah.
And especially in professional sports. My God, how much money is involved.
I know, right?
So, tackle at all costs. And there's certain techniques to tackling, just like there's certain techniques to, choking people. And one of the techniques is known as a hip drop. And you grab the person and you just drop your hips. And usually what ends up happening is you swing around to their backside and you get tangled up, or their legs get tangled up. Mm-hmm. And usually you fall on their legs as they're coming to the ground, and that's obviously not any good for your knees.
Yeah, no.
And people get all kinds of injuries from that. And
that's specific for American football?
Yeah.
That's outside of my area of expertise. I have to defer to males on that one. I'm not one of them I'm super into football girls. I'm just I mostly just root for the Steelers just to have animosity.
Yeah, no, when I was in Vegas, I came back with a souvenir, and it was a Raiders shirt. Oh. Just so that I could wear it around the Steeler fans. Because I don't really watch football much either.
I don't either. But I like to be part of antagonizing other people.
So I wear that, and I wear Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, why would you do that?
The two most hated. Right? I don't know. Although I do know, and I do pay attention to at least 2 games a year, whenever the Dallas Cowboys play the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
There she is. Told you she wants to be part of it.
Part of the show.
Every time. She does this every podcast. She did it, I think, whenever Dina and I had an episode, too. Uh-huh. She's become... Why is she licking you?
Do I taste good?
She's taste testing you?
Wow.
You don't have to let her keep doing that.
No, it's kind of interesting. What in the world? I don't think I've had any random cats just come up to me. Now, dogs, sure. You know what's really interesting? Earlier, so I don't know if that's a good idea for you to be looking at. Sorry, kitty.
That's hilarious.
So earlier, I lifted this morning.
Yeah.
And so earlier, I put on some CBD THC cream.
Oh, great. My cat's going to be high as a kite.
So now you're going to be all pie-eyed. Well, look at you. See, now you're all pie-eyed.
My cat's going to be high. She'll be sitting around.
It's probably not good for you to lick the cream off of me. But
stop that.
I
My cat's a stoner.
I don't care. Yeah.
I think she'll be fine. That's hilarious. Okay, so, all right.
No. Okay.
So we had judo, gymnastics, soccer, or football in the rest of the world.
Here, you can go to town. I don't care. It actually kind of funny. That's just so funny.
What is she? What, my cat likes CBD?
It'll calm you down, anyways.
Let's hope. That is hilarious. Stella, what are you doing? Stella, you're not that hungry. I'm not starving you.
but it has such an interesting flavor.
I'm gonna wake up and she'll be licking me, seeing if I taste like CBD. I'll wake up.
You can smell a little bit. It has like a lemony flavor to me. But I don't know. I don't know if you should be doing that, but...
Alright, so, come knock it off. Come on.
So what?
Come here. Come here.
I tell you what. How good your balance.
Perfect.
There you go.
Much better than mine,
You're a little
really.
bit too far.
Just a little too far. Okay. Gymnastics and then soccer, and did another martial art come into play, or?
So the martial art, I guess, the core of my martial arts is Hapkido, which, oddly enough, is kind of similar to Japanese Jiu Jitsu.
Okay.
In fact, they all have kind of the same origin. So the way it goes, anyways, and I'm not sure if I got the names right anymore, but I believe the guy's name is Choi Young-sul.
Okay.
Learned from a Japanese Aikido master in Japan.
Okay.
So the Japanese had lots of servants, and servants may be a nice way of putting it, I'm not really sure, that were Korean. So the Japanese didn't treat the Koreans very well, historically. Anyways, so this guy claims to have learned from the master that he was living with. Whether he just saw him and just did it on his own, whether he learned from him, I don't know. But anyways, it goes back to Korea and kind of disseminates what he knows. So if you look at the Korean, if it's written with Korean, Hapkido is the same three characters as in Japanese you would write Aikido. And so there's this sort of, lineage thing. But Aikido and Judo and Jiu Jitsu, I suppose, all come from, a mother art known as Aiki Jiu Jitsu.
Okay.
The full name was Daito-ryu Aiki Jiu Jitsu, and Daito-ryu just means Eastern school or Eastern philosophy or something like that. And then it's Aiki Jiu Jitsu was the martial art that the samurais would practice.
Oh, and so how long? Is thousands of years, I'm assuming?
So I'm not sure how long that word would have been in use.
But the art itself?
During the last period of peace in Japan, nobody needed to learn any martial arts for fighting because there was no fighting. And so martial arts became something to do to enrich you.
Okay.
And so they made a distinction I don't know when, but at some point, between schools that they would call Budo and schools that they would call Bujutsu.
Budo, Bujutsu.
So Bu in Japanese is military.
Okay.
So Bujutsu means martial art, military art.
Ah.
And Budo means martial way.
Ah.
So you would get schools like Judo. There's something known as Karate Do. You would get, in Korea, Tangsudo, right? All these martial arts that end in Do.
Yeah.
And they were not necessarily martial arts where you learned how to fight. They were essentially moves that were taken from some other martial art. And you just worked on those for your own self enrichment and refinement and development. So Jigoro Kano chose some moves from Jiu-Jitsu that he thought, these are good, safe moves that everybody can practice. And instead of calling it Jiu-Jitsu, which had kind of a bad rap at the time, people were trying to get away from the ways of the samurai.
Why was that?
It was, it just, samurai weren't very nice people. Right? You see in Hollywood, right, all this,
They make them look like very
samurai.
valor and honor
So it's the same thing with the Greeks, right? The Greeks, had democracy, and they talked about, not having slaves, and yet they had slaves.
Mm-hmm.
right? What they meant was no Greek should be a slave, right? And everyone else was a barbarian. So samurai didn't treat, regular people very well.
Oof.
I mean...
So it was like the elite class, they were, ooh.
Oh, sure.
Was it just the samurais, or was it like their families that were associated with? Was it this whole different
they had
class?
clans, and then you had a hierarchy of, I don't know who was the boss. You had the samurai who were just essentially, I don't know, the workers, right? They were the ones that did that,
the plebeians.
Right? They went out and did their job, right?
The blue collar workers.
Then you had the lords and the daimyos who were, landowners and, special privileged people.
Yeah.
But if samurai came through the village, the villagers would be expected to bow as they came through. And if you didn't do that, right, I mean, a samurai could, if they felt like it, just cut your head off.
Oh!
Right? And there are no consequences for that, right? I mean, their nobility right there.
That's terrible. I wouldn't have liked them either.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I mean, I think all of that kind of stuff is like glorified, in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't. It's so hard to judge them too, because for 1,000 years they just fought each other.
Yeah.
And so, what do? You grow up right in that kind of a world, in a feudal system, and that's what you do.
So that was kind of like the Japanese.
Oh yeah, it's the Japanese feudal
system.
Yeah. And so they had their own equivalent of knight and lord and duke and all that. Of course, then you had the shogun, right, who's the boss of them all.
Okay, that makes sense. So that was the reason people were getting away from jiu-jitsu then, because it had that bad rap associated with it.
Japan was to move into more modern times, right, and that was old-fashioned, right? That was the way of the samurai, which people were just like, we've had enough, right? Regular people, right? They've had enough of that, so it was difficult for him to sort of sell that. And it was called, I believe, Kano Jiu Jitsu.
Okay.
And then he was just like, well, we're just changing the name altogether. It's Judo.
Well then.
And so Judo became a thing. And in fact, one day I hope to go to the Budokan in Japan and compete. They have IBJJF tournaments there.
Yes! That would be so cool!
Nice would that be, right?
That would be cool.
But anyways...
Is it still associated with that long lineage?
Oh,
it's still
absolutely.
That would be the ultimate.
Absolutely.
Oh, that'd be like that would be like a jiu-jitsu pilgrimage.
Absolutely, it would be. Right? I mean, essentially. So then you got Mitsuo Maeda, who left Japan, a judo guy, right, and goes to Brazil and starts teaching in Brazil, and eventually teaches to the Gracies.
Right.
And because at the time some people were still calling it Kano Jiu Jitsu, the Gracies had developed their own style or way of doing things that became Gracie Jiu Jitsu. And then, of course, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu really kind of, I don't know if they're really distinction. I guess Gracie Jiu Jitsu is still, a lot of the self-defense stuff, like the curriculum that we do. And then Brazilian Jiu Jitsu more sport-oriented, I guess. But
yeah.
It's certainly not, like a traditional martial arts school. It's not like that at all.
And the reason for that is there's a lot more sport emphasis these days.
Yeah.
With who's that guy? Calls himself the GOAT. I stopped following him.
Gordon Ryan.
Gordon Ryan. There's a lot more of the Gordon Ryans, and there's a lot more of the the bravado has really come to surface. What, in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's been there a lot.
With the UFC,
I mean,
yeah.
Because with the start of the UFC, you've got all these tough guys coming to try to prove their point, and that their way of fighting was the best.
Yeah. With Choke, that whole.
Yeah.
What do we want to call that? A biopic? How would you categorize it?
Breathe, you mean, or the book?
No, Choke. The one that it was.
It was the.
That was with
It was a documentary.
Yeah, it was a documentary.
I did see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was.
I forget.
Which Gracie was it that was in it? I gotta Google it.
That's Hickson, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Hickson. Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious. So I had already watched it. One of my students, Joe, shout out to Joe. He's the reason I got into jiu-jitsu.
Huh.
I was listening to, not Joe Rogan. I don't know Joe Rogan. A different, one of my previous students, his name was Joe. Shout out to Joe. He was telling me, he was going over jiu-jitsu terms because he didn't want to have, a thick accent when he was talking to people he was training with so they could understand him a little better. I said, well, I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience. I'm like, should I try jiu-jitsu? Like, I want to do something maybe a little bit more exciting. And he was like, yeah, do it. He said, you got to watch Choke. And I was watching it. It's hilarious. There was like this one friend of a friend. He invited me to VHS and Chill.
VHS and Chill.
He brought the VHS with him from Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he said, he texted me. He's like, I have the VHS. I was like, huh? He's like, yeah, come over to my place and we'll VHS and chill and we'll watch Choke together. I'm like, something about watching a Choke with a guy, VHS, like,
VHS
just not. I feel like that doesn't bode well for me. See, my friends have they asked me to put my location on if I go out of town for a date or whatever, but they didn't worry about that situation. I'm sorry. That seems 10 times more. Also, I didn't tell my friends because that never got off the ground.
Okay.
But I feel like, tell me which one is more dangerous, going out of town in a public place or... Yeah, so there's that. But before Hickson, so that was back to who brought... So we had Japan, we're in Brazil, so back to Brazil, the Gracie family. And the Gracie family is important to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so Carlos and Elio... I guess we're the two that initially started learning from, what was his nickname? Mitsuyo Maeda had a nickname, Kundakoma or something like that. I forget what. Count something. I don't remember. I can't remember. It was good, though. I should look it up.
Yeah, and so this was like the late 19th, early 20th century, if I remember correctly.
Early 20th century would have been 19. I can't think of when that might have been.
And the Gracie family, they had actually immigrated from Scotland.
I know, right? That was a surprise to me. I didn't know that. Right? Scottish people ended up in Brazil, so... Yeah. I thought, what kind of a name is that for South America? And I'm like...
Nope.
No, Scottish.
Yeah. And they kind of did a concubine thing with the family, too, so they could have all the brothers.
That's right.
Yeah. So the whole thing with it, but they wanted to create a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu dynasty, and you needed people for that. So,
and so they did. There's so many of them. So judo, jiu-jitsu. I mean, if you talk to a strict judo person now about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they're like, oh yeah, that's just judo. But that's just the newaza. That's just the ground techniques of judo. Oh,
newaza. So okay. It makes judo, ground techniques?
Yeah. So in judo you have just various kinds of techniques. Some of them are to deal with the ground. Some of them, like they would separate throws from hip throws to leg trips to shoulder throws to arm throws. And so you had throwing techniques. You had grappling techniques. But because of the rules in judo, they favor the stand-up part of the game, where those restrictions are not in jiu-jitsu, competitive jiu-jitsu, and so you end up, on the ground and you're doing stuff on the ground. In judo, if you don't do anything, the ref is going to stand you up and give you a penalty. And over the years, the rules, Olympic judo anyways, have become a little bit more restrictive. Like, you can't attack the legs and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Because they didn't want it to look like wrestling. I mean, because at one point, the Olympic Committee is like, we're going to get rid of something here. And judo and wrestling, they kind of look the same. They're just guys fighting. And, so wrestling went one way, judo went another way.
Judo looks like, I don't know. I do jiu-jitsu, and that's...
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to say? I'm kind of glad I had no clue what I was getting into before I knew what I was doing, because I'm really not well suited for this, but I don't like to give up. So if I can do it, literally anyone can do it. If I can do it, anyone can. I am not athletic. Now I am, but what do you want to say? It's like grueling. I want to say grueling for jiu-jitsu for sure. I look over at judo, I'm like, holy shit, that's grueling. But then what we do in jiu-jitsu is pretty grueling.
So when I go places, so when I trained at the Yamasaki Academy in Maryland, they also have a judo program in the Yamasaki Academy. And there are various schools in the DC area.
Yeah.
So I was in Rockville, but there's one in Springfield, there's one in Loudoun, and just other schools around. So for open mat or when we roll, sometimes you end up with some purely jiu-jitsu guy. Sometimes you end up with some judo guy.
Really?
Sometimes you end up with somebody who likes to wrestle.
Huh.
And I could totally tell the difference between a judo person and a BJJ person because they are so much more explosive.
Judo.
BJJ people are sort of kind of more laid back, and they're just, hey, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But because of the rules in judo and wrestling, they gotta go. And so when you roll with them, they need to go.
Okay, so I'm not just
going.
I'm not imagining that then.
Yeah. So you're just like, oh, this looks like, what's up with that guy? And
wrestling
and
too. I'm like, oh
he's
my
a
god,
wrestler. Yeah, that's why he's just all downhill on you.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're trained to do. Right? They want to be on top. They want to play guard. Judo guys, you got to move and you got to attack every 30 seconds, or you're going to get a penalty. And so they're used to being explosive. They need to get things done.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
The energy is different, and people in jiu-jitsu can be a little bit more lazy about it, especially if they're guard players, because you can kind of relieve the pressure with frames and whatever stuff you're doing, and you can kind of just chill a little bit more that way.
Mm-hmm.
But if the rule set says if you chill you get penalties, then of course you don't chill.
No.
No
chill.
You gotta go.
So yeah, you were like, so was that when you first started jiu-jitsu when you were going to Maryland, or did you have exposure?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this was how long ago?
So I started jiu-jitsu, I guess, in 2016.
And you were traveling.
I was driving from here to Rockville every weekend, 2 hours and 45 minutes one way, 2 hours 45 minutes after on the way back. But man, the Yamasaki Academy is awesome.
How did you do that?
So Fernando Yamasaki is the head instructor of the Yamasaki Academy, but I trained for a little while under a guy named Francisco Neto. He was the guy that would come up here to the gym that I was training at here, and we were a Yamasaki affiliate, and he would invite us down a lot. And when I decided that I was going to start competing, I decided that I should go there to do a lot of my training because there's just not enough people here. Mm-hmm. I went through the 5 or 6 people that were in my class, in not much time. So I needed more competition, right? It's a small town. That's what it is. It's a small town. And then of course, I go to Rockville, and then I'm the nail for a year, 6 months a year. Just at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving down with the Red Bull, thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I'm spending 2 hours and a half, 2 hours 45 minutes to get there. I'm going to get my butt handed to me for an hour and a half, and then 2 hours and 45 minutes, back home. Why did I even do this? It was hard because I just would get beat up the whole time. And then when I decided to start competing, I was like, I can't just go there and come back and every weekend. And so I started staying there during the week, during the weekends. Okay. And they let me stay at the academy. I slept on the couch.
Oh my God, you're like Daisy Fresh.
I slept on the mats, and yeah, man, it was great.
That's amazing.
At 1 a.m, the cleaning crew would come in and turn on all the lights, and
oh no,
this is a white mat, huge. It's probably 6 of our mats, and it's all white, and the light would come on at 1 in the morning. I'm like, holy smokes, it's like aliens. And
how did you go back to sleep?
I would just fall asleep. I mean, I'm tired from sleeping on the couch anyways.
Yeah.
But then I started training with the competition team, and so it was definitely worth it. And I did that up until the time I got an injury. I tore a rotator cuff in my right shoulder.
Oof.
And I was out for, I don't know, 12, 15 months. And then when I came back is when I started at PA Grappling. So,
yeah, and what time was that you'd started at PA Grappling?
So I know it was like January or February, and it was before the COVID lockdown, so I don't know if
was it 2020 then?
I guess.
Would have been.
So it would only been like 3 months or so before.
It was before the plague had
lockdown.
descended upon us.
Yeah.
So, did you get a couple competitions in before? I'm just trying to put that
yeah.
How were those experiences?
Yeah,
like,
so
your first one, how is that?
So my very first tournament was in Harrisburg. It was called, it was, I believe, in 2016.
Okay.
Because that would have been the year we would have had an Olympics.
Okay.
I believe. Because we had it in 12.
Okay.
Yeah, then 16. So they called this the Keystone State Games.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to the Keystone State Games. I'm going to be a Keystone State Gamer.
There's something about it sounds like very official.
It was cool because they had fencing, they had jiu-jitsu, they had weightlifting, a couple of other things. It was like a mini Olympics. You know?
That's really cool.
So that was the whole draw of this thing, and that's why I wanted to go, because I was like, okay, I'm not we're going to go to the Olympics, but I can go to the Keystone State Games.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, as a white belt, I won my first match, and then I lost the second match. And there was 4 of us in the division, and then the other 2 guys went like 3 times, and I'm just like, I don't even know why they keep going.
Yeah.
But anyways, whatever. I got a bronze. I won 1 and lost 1. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do this.
Aha, you're all fired up.
And there was another tournament that was going to come up in Pittsburgh, and about a week or so before that, I tore some cartilage in my rib, and so I didn't go. And then I got promoted to blue belt. And I'm like, what? I mean, I have only been doing this now for, like, I started in 2016, and this is 2016.
Show off. Same thing happened with Sean.
Yeah, but I did not want that blue belt, because what I think happened was, because I started training at the Yamasaki Academy with lots of skilled players, that I developed my jiu-jitsu faster than the people who only trained here at the academy here.
Oh, yeah.
And so it wasn't long until my skill level was up to theirs. And you're
a really good kinesthetic learner. Like, you're really in tune with that.
Yeah, I feel like I have an awareness of proprioception, like where my body's at in space.
Yep.
So after about 6 months, I got that blue belt, and I'm like, I didn't even win a tournament yet. And now I have a blue belt. And I'm like, okay, fine. And so I went to my first, I joined the competition team. I went to my first IBJJF tournament in New York and just lost right away.
Oops.
I'm like, all right. So
whoops.
It was actually a pretty nice fight. I almost got a triangle choke on the guy, but somehow I couldn't finish it. I can't imagine not finishing a triangle choke now.
Oh, gosh.
Unless it's just some humongous, gorilla kind of person. But anyways, I just got bit by the bug. And I'm like, yeah, I like this. And
the obsessive. There's it seems to be an obsessive component that really appeals.
I like
to jiu-jitsu.
competing, and not only like competing. I mean, if I'm doing something that requires learning some kind of a skill, then I want to be good at it.
Right.
I don't just want to be like, okay, I can do it. But why am I doing it? Why am I spending so much time doing it?
Right. What are you taking the time out for?
Yeah. So I feel like if there's anything worth doing, then I'm gonna really put some effort into it.
Exactly.
So I become more serious about it. Like I said, competition team, and if you join the competition team, you actually had to sign a contract. You had to agree to do so many numbers of tournaments leading up to the main tournament that the team was preparing for. You went as a team.
Wow.
Shirts printed together. We all went together, all wearing the same. You look like a team.
Ooh,
right? I mean,
go team, go.
Soccer players, they all have the same uniform on.
Nice.
Yamasaki Academy, I have the same shirt on. And it's just nice because you got the energy of the group. Yeah,
camaraderie.
And everybody's yelling. You can hear them, when you're out there, and you're competing. And, some people win, they get congratulations. Other people lose, and you're like, oh man, that was a tough fight, but you did well, or something. There's always something going on like that. And, even though it's super stressful, I find it really stressful. Very. Beforehand, I'm all nervous and my heart is coming up through my throat and I can't.
There's something kind of exciting. I think.
But there were a few times I would say to myself too, like, why do I keep doing this? This is really hard. Like on everything, on your body, on your mind. But I always feel so good afterwards. Of course, when I win, I feel better.
Yeah.
And at least I don't feel so good. But, there are still some things, that you can take away from losses and stuff, even though they're not nice.
What are some things you take away?
I go back and I look at, footage of the match, and I just try to figure some things out that, mistakes that I did or something that I could have done differently.
She's licking you again.
The cat's back. That tastes good. So I don't know about something in particular. I don't know. I usually end up having to go back home and talk to people about issues that I came across. This is funny. That I came across.
She's going to become the star of this podcast episode.
All right. I love how cats' tongues feel. They have all these little.
They're like little hooks. Yeah. Yeah, they're like hooks. Sorry, we're migrating in some direction. Anyway, this is hilarious. She's right in the center too. I'm looking.
Yeah.
That is too funny. But that's something I find applies well to everyday life. Like I can feel a lot of my psyche changed through doing jiu-jitsu because there is no quick fix or easy quick way to get to jiu-jitsu. The only way you get there is by failing in each class. Fail, and all that failure or getting beat into the mat in Rockville seemed to have obviously had a really beneficial effect for you.
What ended up happening, and I really think this is a good idea for anybody that's learning jiu-jitsu. It just happened to be the environment that I was introduced in. So there was this one black belt, bigger than me, much bigger, younger, stronger. And every time I'd roll with him, I'd start the roll just with a big sigh because I'm like, oh man, I'm about to get wadded up.
That's me with everybody. That is me with It's starting to get a little bit better, just a little. But I'm like, oh. I say, oh, I got 5 seconds, yes. And the guys are kind of like, don't you feel? I'm like, no, I'm child-sized. I got 5 extra seconds. I will take that win. But you still just let me have this.
Eventually, what ended up happening was, no matter what I did, if he was about, I don't know, do something, I don't know, if I put my arm out, he'd armbar me. If I didn't put my arm out, he'd choke me. If I turned around, then, he'd do something else. And, and everything I do just leads to another dead end. For me.
You can learn a lot of existential life lessons from that too.
Yes, right?
We're all going to die in the end. Enjoy the ride.
So what I learned from that was that sometimes the best thing to do is nothing.
Ooh.
And what I ended up learning from that was there are certain safe positions for me that I know. I start off like this. The neck, I'm going to end up, on my back and smack. I'm like, you know what? I might as well just, I know it's happening, I'm just going to go to that position, but on my own terms.
Yeah.
And then I'll be ready for, because I know what's going on. You've done it to me 50 times now today, and you're going to do it one more time, but this time I'm just going to go right there, and I'll wait for you. and it worked, because then, of course, right, they get a little bit frustrated, and they're like, okay. And eventually they get around anyways.
Right.
The black belts.
Yeah.
But I learned how to stay in a relatively safe position, especially when I was with lower belts. Then now again, I'm a white belt or a blue belt. Coming up on blue belt. So I mean, purple belts.
Which is what he is now.
Now.
Do you have any official stripes at the moment?
No. But the black on the belt is wearing off and falling off already.
And how long have you been a purple belt? Remind me. I think you'd gotten a little after I started.
So it's actually a little bit more than that, like a year and 3/4 now. So in March, I got my purple belt. Mm-hmm. So it'll be 2 years in March. Mm. No stripes on it yet, though, which I don't really care.
With the stripes.
I actually need a stripe to hold the black patch on, because it's coming off.
Just need to tape it.
And if it comes off, they won't let you use it in IBJ. If it becomes frayed in IBJJF, they don't allow that. They don't allow any fraying on your uniform.
Oh wow!
So I'll have to get a new belt, and it'll look like a brand new belt though.
Oh,
with no stripes on.
You can psych them out.
And like, who's this new purple belt?
What are your tasks in purple belt right now? Are you focusing on? Do you have brown belt in your sights, or is it just like, nope, I'm just in my journey, whatever?
No, brown. I'm not worried about brown belt right now. That'll come whenever. Right now, I'm worried about World Master.
Yes. World Master. Okay, where? What's the goal? What are you up against? What's your training regimen? Go.
So, since the last World Master, Labor Day weekend, from then until now, it's sort of been an off season, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I'm eating all kinds of stuff, and I don't train as much. And not that I'm not doing anything, I'm still keeping myself in pretty decent shape. But in March will be the Pan Championship, IBJJF. This is all IBJJF stuff. Mm-hmm.
Which is a competition
the Federation, International Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation. So there's Grappling Industries, there's NAGA, there's ADCC, there's IBJJF. Mm-hmm. The last World Master was the largest Jiu-Jitsu tournament ever. Over 10,000 competitors.
Ooh.
Not all in one division.
But that would be...
Wow, can you imagine being the person that wins that? Holy smokes.
That would be endless.
But still, with 10,000 competitors, after everybody's gone through their first match, half of them go home, right? They're done. Right? So 5,000 go, and 5,000 continue, and then 2,500 go, and then 2,500 continue. I mean, all together.
Right.
But anyways, the plan is to go back to Pan in March, and then World Master again on Labor Day weekend.
So when you're in your training mode, what are some things? What's a typical day or typical week look like for you? What are you eating? What do you have a goal list?
So I mean, I was competing at lightweight, and I'm not really sure why I did that, because I was always a middleweight, but I was always so close to the lightweight cutoff, just above, and I thought, well, I might as well just lose a couple pounds and go down to lightweight.
Okay.
But I don't know. I felt good at Pans. Had plenty of energy, plenty of strength. Ended up losing to a guy who was the Pan champ the previous year, and that year's no-gi IBJJF World no-gi champ. Mm-hmm. So a high-level guy, and he's won some gold medals at Worlds and at Pans. And our match went 0-0, tie at the end, but he had 2 advantages. IBJJF gives advantages to people who almost do something. Anyways, he almost took my back, but ended up on his back. So I don't know how that's an advantage for him. But whatever.
Close only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yeah.
But they call it an advantage.
Apparently, in IBJJF, close counts too. Close enough.
What?
I guess it's a tiebreaker, right? I mean, the guy tried something. It didn't work out, but maybe he tried something.
Oh, well.
But anyways, at the end of the match, I get up and I look at the scoreboard and I'm upset. And I'm just like, God, I can't believe I lost, by the advantage. Especially to this guy because, like I said, he was the #1 seed. He's the top guy, and at the end of the match, he's still on the floor. Breathing heavy, and I could have gone on. I could have done way more.
I want to get started, bro.
Yeah, I should have just. Oh man, I should have just went bananas the last 10 seconds.
Finish him.
So that's a lesson, right? There you go. Last 10 seconds. If you're losing by advantage, go bananas or something.
Just go ape shit.
Just do something. Anyways, he had a hard time getting up afterwards. He ended up hurting himself, I don't know, hip or knee, something, and he couldn't continue on to his next match. And so that fellow ended up winning by walkover, and then he just went straight to the final. And I'm like, how's this even right? Like if that guy can't go because he's injured, then I should take his place.
Yeah.
But anyways. A little while later, the guy that ended up winning silver at PANS that year, I met him at a Grappling Industries in Virginia. And that's the second time that I had competed against him, once as a blue belt and then this time as a purple belt. And I ended up beating him there. And so I'm thinking to myself, if I'd have made the final at PANS, then I may have beat him there too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe at Grappling Industries he's trying his new moves and they didn't work or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I feel like that at lightweight that I was in the ballpark, that I was there with those guys that had that kind of an ability. And I felt like that my strength and my conditioning were better than theirs.
Oh, nice. Okay,
because
so you'll be...
I was not tired at all. Was not exhausted from those matches. And I just looking at them and watching the footage, I feel like they were more tired than I was. But for whatever reason, by the time I had gone to World Master, that I don't know. Like something happened. I bonked. My legs ended up getting really tired.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. I feel like that. So I actually, so today.
Oh, today?
Today I went and did a body composition analysis.
Ooh, okay.
And
what's involved in that?
I'm 100. Just trying to figure out, and the way they do it with this, they attach electrodes. You stand on this thing with your feet, and then you hold 2 electrodes with your hands, and it's measuring. It sends a little bit of a current through, and it's measuring the resistance in your body, and from that it can sort of reverse engineer what you're made out of. Anyways, so 177 pounds, 10% body fat. Okay. So back then I was 163 pounds. Yeah. And much less body fat. So I think I just trimmed too much at that point to be at lightweight. I saw a picture of my face and it was just like...
A little gaunt, a little bit.
Yeah. I was like, holy smokes, I look like Skeletor. Because you could see the veins in my muscles, but you could also see, my face was all sunken in.
It's a cool look, but I was like, whoa, is everything okay?
I think I went a little bit overboard with that.
Now, do you think that's good for some people and perhaps not as good for others?
So, I'm at 10% body fat now, at 177 pounds.
Oh, then what do you need to...
I was probably at 4 or 5% body fat. And so,
is that healthy for anybody?
Well, that's kind of something that you see with bodybuilders, and they have health issues if they try to stay that lean for a long time.
And I feel like for women, in comparison, I feel like that would be even worse.
So
for us.
I'm sure it messes with estrogen and testosterone.
Hormones and yeah.
Makes it all, because bodybuilders do have testosterone issues.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's because of the juice, but it's also because of how lean they are. They're
Gord
sort
Ryan.
of like whenever they so whenever they compete, right, there's a period of time where they really get super lean.
Yeah.
And they can develop sometimes some hormone and health issues. So I feel like that maybe that was an issue with me. And so I'm like, look, I don't know why I decided to do lightweight anyways. And so I'm just at middleweight again.
Good.
And at my natural weight or whatever. And so I try to
probably like less stressful mentally too.
Oh my God, it is.
You can kind of have a little sneaky snack here and there, and you just like.
Oh yeah. I have more than here and there. I'll eat a Snickers right after I eat a Butterfinger.
Hey, well, you know what? Why not? I don't think we're meant to starve.
But starting in January, or I don't know, I wanted to start next week, but we'll see because of my knee. But I will start my pan training, and I'm not really cutting calories. I'm not really restricting my diet, but I'm done with the ice cream and the Snickers and the pie for 3 months.
Okay. That's really rough to do around Christmas and New Year's.
Well, that's why I'm waiting until after that.
Oh, okay. That's what I was hoping. I thought I missed something.
No, wait till after like the very end of the year, or maybe, whatever the first day of the new year is, and second, third, whatever it is.
There you go.
Start that.
Perfect.
Not necessarily lose any weight. I mean, to weigh in for my division at middleweight with the gi on, I'd have to lose 1 pound.
Oh, however will you do it?
Right now, right?
However
so
shall
I have to
you
be
do
176, and then with the gi on, I'd be 181.
Okay. Yeah.
Gi and belt, and that's the upper limit for that weight class.
Interesting that they
if
weigh
I
you
put
with
on
the
a
gi.
few pounds, before then, who cares?
It's so weird they weigh you with the gi.
Yeah.
To me, that's so strange.
Yeah. And
it's like when the gi becomes part of you.
So they're becoming even more restrictive with all their gi uniform rules now. I can kind of see their point, but I don't know how much of a difference it makes. So in the Olympics, you can't just wear any gi you want.
Yeah.
You got two choices.
Okay.
And everybody has to have the same gi. And of course, you got your USA patch, and they got their Japan patch, and they got their Korea patch, or whatever.
Okay, well,
so
right. Fair enough.
And so all my gis for IBJJF that I was wearing, none of them will be IBJJF legal anymore. I'll have to get a new gi.
Oh no!
But I'll have one gi.
Yeah.
For IBJJF,
uh-huh.
And I'll just wear it for that.
There you go.
But the diet will become more restrictive, but restrictive in the sense that because my training is going to increase, that I want the good food that I eat to increase as well, not ice cream and Snickers and all that. Because with the training load going up gradually over the next 13 weeks or so, it just, in order to have better recovery, just need better food.
And what does qualify as better food? Is it protein? Is it like things like salmon, chicken, eggs, or is it greens?
So my diet consists of something. I didn't make this up, but it's called G-bombs.
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 Yo.
So greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds, and nuts.
Really?
And then on top of that, I have whatever meat. Mostly it's salmon. Like I get Alaska King salmon, and some chicken, and then some bison red meat for my iron.
Nice. Where do you even get that?
The bison meat?
Yeah.
So you can actually get it at the grocery store here.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But there's a bison farm in Bedford too, where you can get like good stuff, fresh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's not far from here. I mean, it's in Bedford.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't know.
Yeah. So
I thought this was like some weird Joe Rogan bullshit.
I know. So
I didn't realize that.
For like the cardio stuff, that you do. Of course, you need a higher blood count for better oxygen, oxygenation of your muscles and stuff. You wanna come up? You wanna lick?
Are you taking my spot?
Are you feeling okay? Are you a little?
Is she tripping?
Exactly.
Snoop Dogg cat.
It's like, I feel a little funny. I'm a little bit hungry now.
Actually, probably it's time for me to feed them soon.
It's like, I'm also a little bit tired now.
She's gonna have the munchies.
Yeah, I want to eat and go to bed.
So bison meat.
Yeah. So, anyways, you know, of course, you need iron in your diet. But the fats from salmon, good fats, and then again, like the bulk of the food, the volume of the food, anyways, not the calories. The bulk of the volume of the food comes from the G bombs.
Interesting.
And
G-bombs.
when I eat that way consistently for like months at a time, I just feel fantastic.
Good.
I just wish I could do it all the time and not feel like, oh man, because I mean, I just love candy. I love cookies. I love pie. I love ice cream. I mean,
I was training to compete. Now I'm gonna have to do it at blue belt the first time I decide to do it. I didn't plan it that way. That just happened. Everybody said, don't wait till blue belt. I'm like, life happened. What was I supposed to do? So that's one thing I will say I gained from that. I won either way, even if I didn't have the time to compete because I was doing too much stuff and learning how to balance better. The diet change that I did to cut weight. I lost like 18 pounds by changing my diet. Everybody could see it too. Everyone was like, whoa.
How did you feel after
better. I felt a lot better from the
much better.
diet change. I noticed things changed with like my inflammation, my breathing, mental health changed a lot. Like a lot of the crap I was eating from fast food and just overeating, I didn't realize that I was like, I don't know how much diet affects mental health. Well, a lot.
Considerably.
Considerably. I don't really eat fast food. That's not to say I'm overly restrictive. Every now and then I'll get the little fried apps from Sheetz, and I like the savory stuff. I don't have a sweet
like
tooth.
a spicy chicken sandwich.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean.
So you gotta reward yourself with a little junk here and there. So cool. I'm trying to figure out because I do have to wrap up soon. But it's been an awesome conversation. What's your big thing? Like your major goal, or your big task outside of the diet? Like, is there certain like, oh, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear my stomach like, oh, whale sounds because I have to make a vegetable to take to my friend's place. Is there a specific technique or like a specific, what do you want to say, like a strategy that you're aiming towards as you're doing your training too?
So no particular techniques. I mean, if I come across something that I like, then maybe I'll incorporate it. But because of my upbringing in jiu-jitsu, I played a lot of defense. And I think my guard game is much better than my guard passing game. And so I've been trying to work more on guard passing.
Yeah.
But it's more energetic, it's more tiring, and eventually I'm just like, you know what?
Just let it happen.
Just come on.
Just let it happen.
But I guess the big thing that I try to work on for these tournaments is nothing in particular, but in making sure that my transitions are that I don't just do singular moves, that I don't just say, like for example, at World Master this past year, the guy threw a triangle and tried to triangle choke. So I get around the triangle choke, but for a moment I pause just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just getting out of the triangle choke and passing and moving to a position where I could get some points, or at least I could be in a dominant position and hold them down for a little bit and catch my breath and think about what it is I want to do. Instead of doing that, I paused for a little bit, almost like what I had been doing was just drilling the escape. And once you escape, you're finished, right? You don't do anything else.
Right.
And so I escape, I'm finished, and then I realized, oh man, I got to try to pass this guy's guard. So there was a moment of pause. And during that moment, he regards. And at another time that happened, he stood up. Right? And so he's playing the game. He knows that, oh crap, something's coming. All right, he's gotten out.
Yeah.
If he ends up, like switching up and down positions with me, he gets a point, so he stands up, right? And so we have to reset and all that. So it's more of us working on my transitioning and making sure that I complete, I don't know, I'll call them cycles, from beginning to end, rather than worrying about working on a particular move.
Okay.
Because, and again, I felt that way. Jeff, who was there, he felt that way. Our black belt
Jeff Curran, represent.
Said kind of the same thing. He was like, man, I felt like that you almost, like, you got out of the triangle choke and you kind of celebrated there for a second. And I'm like, I don't celebrate, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I kind of stopped because I did have success, and I'm like, well, you're finished with the move. But you're not, right? If you're competing, you're not finished.
No.
You have to continue.
You
have to play the game, right? You have to pass the guard and all that. So, I don't know. It's that kind of stuff that's on my mind for right now. Because I think my jiu-jitsu is good enough. I think my fitness is good enough. It's that I make some really poor decisions and I run out of time.
Oops!
Yeah.
So that'll be your goal, is to strategize, not doing the poor decisions and running out of time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we would have to do probably a follow-up episode to see how that all works out.
That's right.
And I feel like there's way more we can talk about with jiu-jitsu. I feel like we just scratched the surface with this episode.
Oh my god, that's just, that's just one layer of the onion.
Well, and that's why I had to have Dina back again, because we just pulled back one layer of the onion. Like, jiu-jitsu is a whole universe, and we'll see if my cat ends up getting...
You look a little sleepy now.
Stoned. She does look a little sleepy. She's like... Well, thank you again, Doug, and of course I'll link all of your socials and everything, and people can follow your jiu-jitsu journey. And I would not have my blue belt if it weren't, of course, for the collective school, but he put up with me for a while, had a lot of patience, helping me with my journey to blue belt, and to him I'm eternally grateful. So it's worth it. Maybe some of you will be inspired, and there's plenty. Depending on where you're listening from, there's plenty of gyms across the world now.
That's right.
That you can train at. It's become a worldwide phenomenon. So thank you, Gracie's, for regifting that to us from Japan.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm sure we'll have them back again because, well, we got to hear how this turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, when I come back this time, I'll have a gold medal.
Yes, that'd be the best.
All right.
Well, thank you again, Doug.
You're welcome.
I think you're probably going to end up stealing my cat.
I've made a friend.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.